Welcome to Reality of the Rose with your host, Natalie Sprink.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 221 of Reality of the Rose. I'm your host, Natalie Sprink. Well, welcome to another episode of Reality of the Rose. I appreciate you joining me again today. Today I am going to probably have just a bit of a shorter episode because the finale of Summer House as well as the premiere of In the City are going to be Tuesday night. And I'd like to do another episode that covers both of those well. Not only that, but Kyle and Lindsay are both going to be on Watch What Happens Live right after both of those. So I feel like that will be a fun-filled night full of shocking things, more tea, more perspective, more just putting all this crazy West and Amanda and Sierra stuff together. So I am really, really looking forward to it. So today I am not going to talk much Summer House. Well, a little bit, but I'm going to kind of go over Real Housewives of Rhode Island, which I'm going to tell you is quickly becoming, I'm thinking, one of my favorite Real Housewives shows. It's actually, to me, wild that it is this good and that the people on it were just absolutely meant to be Real Housewives. I believe my favorite my favorite person, I really love everybody. They all make great TV. I also love that Ashley Iconetti is on it. And again, two worlds colliding with her. Ashley, as much as she cries, she's actually like by far the least dramatic on the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. But all of them bring their unique spin to the show. I mean, you have Liz, who is kind of like the matriarch. She's the oldest of the group, and she brings her like interesting perspective of life experience. Then we have Joellen, who is kind of the bitch of the episode, or of the series, but yet you love her because she's also had these hardships. Right now she's talking about what she went through with her mom and how her mom basically treated her horribly when she was young. And actually on this week's episode, this Sunday's episode, which is what I just finished watching, her mom, which I have to respect, was on the show where Joellen addressed some of the things that her mother did when she was young. And I don't know, to put yourself out there like that. I mean, the things that her mom did to her were terrible. And especially as a child, because she was really just a child when these things happened. But, and then to come out and admit that you did those things and to put it on national television where that you have trollers constantly that are going to attack you. I have to give her credit for actually taking accountability and for coming on the show and addressing it and allowing it to be addressed on camera. I think is interesting. That doesn't make what she did okay, but it certainly helps to redeem yourself when you take accountability that way. So like people that go in reality shows, that's what I have to respect about them, is that they're really just willing to put themselves out there and, for the sake of entertainment, but yet it really is their real lives. It's crazy to me. But then we have this dispute between Rosie and Kelsey. They're both a bit younger, actually kind of even look alike, but I love Rosie. I think she is one of my favorite housewives overall. We're 9 episodes in and ever. And I just love her vibe. I think she's totally funny. I think she is quick-witted. I think she seems pretty real to me. It doesn't feel like she's performative necessarily. But yet she brings the drama and it makes it feel like actual drama. Tonight, her and Kelsey had this massive, massive argument that was amazing to watch. I had to rewind it and watch again. Broke the fourth wall, where they even had like the cameramen and like producers kind of like pulling Rosie back a little bit. And it was fantastic for content for Real Housewives. Just loved it. This was a really good episode because we had that back and forth. We had the Joellen with her mom thing. We also had, so Dolores from New Jersey is on as like a friend of, and her and Liz are like actual real best friends. And so Liz has, and her husband have like a cannabis line, and Liz and Dolores decided to go together to create a product, a cannabis product that is for menopausal women, a gummy. So sign me up right now. I was actually watching very closely to see if they would show any kind of like product name or product logo or product anything. They're little blue round gummies. So absolutely, I'm going to be Googling that soon to see what we've got, how I can get how does that work? So I live in Wisconsin where weed is not legal. So if weed is not legal, am I able to order that online? Probably not, right? I have no clue how that works. I've never even, I'm just say it right here. I've never smoked weed. Nothing against weed. I've just never smoked it ever. And, feel like I should experience that at some point, right? Never taken a gummy, never done weed of any sort. So I like feel like this makes sense, right? Because I'm menopausal, and if it would help my symptoms, why would I not start there? Like you gotta start somewhere. But I'm definitely going to be looking that up, and I'll even share that once I find out where it is. I'll try and remember that for my other episode this week. But so, so they talked about that. They were like in their little laboratory where we're making all these cannabis products. So we had that going on. This was just, I believe the hour flies by when I'm watching Rhode Island. I just love it. It's so good. It's just absolutely so good. But like a couple things, I like me saying that Rosie is my favorite. I mean, not that other housewives don't say relatable things, but last week on the show, and here's me trying to relate, people always, I feel like, judge me a bit for being such a massive Bravo fan. Like every single show, I can't miss it, and I enjoy every second I watch of it. And it makes sense for housewives. I mean, they're not all my age, but many of them are my age or older. So like that makes sense. I get like the shows with younger kids, maybe that's not my generation, but I still absolutely love it. It's the same type of drama and entertainment, just a little younger. Maybe I don't get all the lingo, maybe I'm not in that era, but love it. But anyway, I do think some of the stuff you absolutely can relate to real life. Maybe not at the same level, but like for instance, Rosie, last week they stayed at one of their friends' houses, which is, it wasn't her house. It was a friend of a friend's house, but it's this massive, huge castle. So they all stayed there and spent the weekend there, and they had this big, huge, massive, like blow up water slide that they had set up outside. I don't know why. It was actually real funny. So Rosie made this comment that I thought was funny, where she said, her interview, she said, I know that I'm supposed to really like to do these like really important, intelligent things, but right now I am just happy that there's this big slide outside that I get to go on. And I was like, that's so true, or at least with me, how and I guess I'll speak for myself, but I don't think that I'm probably only the one. I'm probably not the only one, but where you feel like in any scenario that you're supposed to say that, you really have this interest, or you like for instance, if someone says, like, what do you like to read, and say you don't like to read, then sometimes you almost feel like judged if you say, no, I don't really like to read, I'd rather watch TV. But if you do like to read, you feel like you should say, like, oh, I love to read, like, nonfiction biographies, or I love to read about, World War II, or I love to read about, economics or finance, or, how to make money. And I'm like, no, I like to read fiction books. I like to read whodunit books. I don't like to read like love stories. They bore me, actually. But I like to read this stuff that's not real, that is going to be a page turner, and nothing that actually like challenges my brain, and something that I have to remember to do is going to do it. The closest I got to them was the let them theory, and that's not the same. But or like, say you what do you like to do when you're bored? What will I say? I'll say I would like to sit my ass on the couch and watch TV. That's what I like to do. Instead of being like, oh, I like to get out. I've taught myself to knit, and I like to get out my knitting needles. Or I was bored, so I decided to teach myself how to play the violin. And so now I do that. Or whatever. I taught myself how to put a roof on a house. No, I like to sit by the lake with a cocktail, or I like to sit my ass on the couch and watch TV, or shop. That's fun to do. I love to shop, Another thing I love to do, I love to sleep. So those are the things that I love to do. So, like, I feel like her saying that is so relatable, like, to real life. Like, I feel like I should be doing intelligent, important things, but I'm just glad I get to go down the slide. That should be my motto in life. So anyway, yeah, I love me some Real Housewives of Rhode Island. If you've not started watching it, if you're any kind of a Bravo fan, what are you doing? Because you absolutely should be tuning in to Rhode Island, and it's not too late to start from the beginning right now. Okay, what else do we have? The Valley. The Valley was interesting this past week because we had two things that when reality stars go on these shows, they are agreeing to share their lives. And some stuff seems performative or seems like it's created for the sake of TV. But there's other things that are not that way. And it's these things that make me not only appreciate reality TV, but appreciate the people that are going on them and deciding to share these things. And sometimes not share them willingly. So the thing that really got me, and I just made me so uncomfortable, was on the Valley. We have Nia and her husband, who is, oh my God, why am I so bad with names? Nia and Danny. Daniel, she calls him Daniel. Danny's his name. And we have Lala on this season of The Valley, which I'm so happy about because I love me some Lala. And it was towards the end of the show, and Danny has had a reputation for the previous couple seasons of when he drinks, he like turns into a real dick. He doesn't necessarily show that. A little bit he has this season, or at least they're showing it to us. But they have, excuse me, they're showing him in a whole different way. Now when he's drinking, like before he was never like necessarily a dick to Nia, his wife, but they're making it seem that way this time. So like there's been a couple times they were all on a trip. So they have a baby, they have 4 kids, and one of them is like a baby who's like 3 months old on the show now. And they went on one of these like, trips that they all go on every single Bravo show. But they went on a trip together, but they had to take their 3-month-old with them because she is still breastfeeding. They also brought a nanny along. But obviously, they're not gonna like, well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say obviously, because I'm sure some people would, but Nia is, and this is like it's real subtle. This is not like a super blatant storyline, what I'm about to say, but like you can tell that she is a very hands-on mom. And even though they're taking a nanny, it's because like of the show and how they're obviously needing to spend time with the group to make a TV show, right? But you can tell that Nia's not like, I'm not going to take advantage of this nanny and just let our kid go with her only, put her up to my boob when she's got to eat and then here you are. And she had Danny helping her. Danny was supposed to be changing a diaper or something. And he kept being in the background, like kind of complaining to Nia, like, why am I doing this? We have a nanny here. Nia, will you come in here? She won't go to sleep. Nia, will you come in here? She's so anxious, and he's like, we have a nanny. Why aren't we taking advantage of the nanny? And Nia's saying like, we're not going to just leave her with a nanny. If she's upset, then put her to sleep. Like she was for once having fun with her friends. And she's like, just take care of it, But this was not the disturbing part. The disturbing part was it doesn't matter really, but the men were all going to be dressing up and doing this like talent show. And so they were all dressing up in like women's outfits, and the wives were all like putting makeup on and dressing their husbands up for this, whatever it was, this little fun, goofy talent show. And she was trying to put makeup on Danny, and he was being such an asshole to her. And Lala was witnessing it. And at first she thought that it was just like part of the bit, and that he was just kind of trying to be funny and maybe taking it a little too far. And they would show her in the background, like listening and being like, is that real or is that not, And then she'd start walking away, and so that he couldn't see her still there. And he was still being, I can't remember the exact things he was saying, but he was just being super condescending to her. And she kept taking it so well. She kept being like, Daniel, come on. Now I'm trying to put this makeup on. Like, let's just be patient. Okay, she was being so uber patient. I feel like Nia is definitely one of those who, it's almost like, we're watching this, right? There's a camera crew filming this. So she's trying to want to minimize how he's looking on camera by leveling down, and trying to just diffuse the whole thing with him. But he just keeps on and on and on. Now, granted, he had been drinking. He seemed pretty drunk. But to like still act this way on camera is wild to me. Like you're hoping you see the real them, sometimes you wonder how they are behind the scenes, but like he was not hiding it at all. And she just felt very like exposed, and Lala heard it then, and then came in and confronted him. And she had a real dick of a boyfriend, years ago. She used to be on Vanderpump Rules, and she was talking about how it was triggering her, the way he was speaking to Nia. And she was like, I'm sorry, Nia. Like, I'm sorry if this is putting you in an awkward situation. I'm trying to help you. That's why I'm doing this. This is why I'm going at him, basically, because I don't like the way he's talking to you, and he shouldn't be talking to you this way, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of had it out. And then Danny was like being real passive aggressive to her too. And he was going around to everybody going, what's my stage name going to be? My stage name is going to be Miss Trigger. I'm Miss Triggered. Oh, I'm triggered. I'm Miss Trigger. Like making fun of her for using the word that this triggered her. Anyway, it was hard to watch. It really was hard to watch. And he has been called out on some stuff. Like on last season, I thought something that Janet called him out on was like a little over the top, and seemed like it seemed like an excessive thing to call him out on. They had it on camera, they showed it, but I don't know. I thought it was no big deal, and I thought they were just giving him a hard time. This was not good. And I would not in a million years defend him. And I could see where he could defend himself, and he did last season with this thing that happened with Janet. But this to me is not defendable. And I don't know, except for just saying, like, I watched it now on camera. I'm horribly embarrassed at how I acted. That was terrible. I've apologized to Nia. I'm sorry to whatever. Like, taking accountability for it. That's about the only thing he can. If he tries to defend how he was talking to her, I'm gonna like lose all respect for this guy. I don't. There's some people that have said they never have really liked him. I've always kind of liked him and defended him until this season, and he is just like bad news. The other thing that they've been talking about that I think is super relatable, and it's not something I've ever necessarily dealt with, thankfully, but also something I'm quite a far distant from. But another character. Oh, God. Are you serious, Natalie? Like, how do you not remember? Like, she's Kristen. Good Lord, Kristen also had a baby. So both Nia and Krista have 3-month-old babies. And she is really, really going through postpartum hard. And she is just not feeling good about herself. She's still going through this process where she's like, sorry, too much information. Too TMI. What am I trying to say? TMI, but she like is going through this like bleeding, she's doing a lot of bleeding right now. They're having intimacy, sex issues. Like, she doesn't want to have sex at all. She feels horrible about her body. Like, she's just really going through it. And she is not afraid to go through it on camera. But they were all somewhere at some restaurant, and she was just feeling like shit. She was missing her baby, and she just wanted to go. So her and Luke were like, at first kind of arguing about it, but then Luke was, I don't know, then it turned a little bit more calm, but I don't know what it was he said, but it was the way he said it, she didn't like it. So then they kind of got into it again, and they got it from the table and were talking to the side. And he was like, I'm trying to be understanding. I wasn't trying to make you mad. I was just trying to like side with you and say I understood. And whatever it was, but it just got under her skin. And then she's like, I just want to go. Like, I just want to leave. I don't, then the cameras are kind of, trying to catch it, but it's not a real blatant shot. But then, I don't know, somebody comes over and asks her if she's okay. And she's like, I'm fine. Like, this is what I didn't want. I didn't want everyone to come over to me and be like, are you okay? Are you okay? I was trying not to make a big deal and just wanting to slide out and leave. And so then, and then someone else came up and was like, wait, are you okay? And she's like, this is what I didn't want. Like, everybody go sit down. I don't want to be, anyway. And so it was just like a very like raw moment that you could see like really happening in real life, but you're being filmed doing it. But I always think things like that are good too, because people that are really going through it, like that same thing at the same time, can, relate or not feel alone, or just appreciate it for her sake that she's sharing this for people to see it. Anyway, I thought it was a really raw, exposing moment for her, and I'm just really enjoying those feel like darker issues, but I'm really enjoying the Valley much more this season than I have the past couple seasons. So that one's really good too. I also started watching Perfect Match, started on Netflix, and only 5 episodes have been released so far, and I've watched all 5 this weekend. And I have to say, now this is season 4. I've only watched 2 of the seasons. And of the 2 I've watched, this to me by far is the best season. And it's because of the cast. I just really like the cast. I like what they bring. I think they're interesting to watch. There's like a whole mix of people. So I talked a little bit about The Secret Millionaire last week, and I don't know if anybody has watched it at all, but if you did, the character Nick is on this season of Perfect Match. So he's on. Chris from Age of Attraction is also on, and I did watch that and talked about that show as well. but he's on, so familiar with him. Allie, actually from Vanderpump Rules, which is a reality show, but not like a love reality show, as we know. But she was what's his name's girlfriend from Vanderpump Rules. Clearly I don't remember. Give me some of those menopause gummies. Holy shit. He was a DJ. Anyway, not Luke. Maybe I'll think of it. But anyway, she was his girlfriend for several seasons, but then something happened once the show was not filming anymore. He, I don't know, pushed her around or something, and she called the cops on him, and it was like a domestic assault issue, and whatever, they broke up. And actually she's been on a couple episodes of Southern Hospitality, just like as a very, very friend of minor role, but she's on here, and she is showing a whole different personality that we got to see on Vanderpump. But also, to be fair, she was just, I almost said it. Dang it, what's his name? Whatever. She was also like just his girlfriend. And so she was on, but she was never a major character. So to be fair, I don't know if we ever really got enough time to see her true personality, but she is the cutest, quirkiest, little cute, fun to watch person. I mean, she is just adorable. I think her humor just cracks me up. It seems like it should be cringy quirky, but it's not. Like, she just seems like she's authentically quirky, and I just love her. I think she's the cutest. But she is currently matched with Jimmy, who was Love is Blind, and it was that whole Megan Fox deal, the whole, everyone heard about that who knows reality TV, but he was matched up with her, with the person from Love is Blind that was like the whole Megan Fox thing. And so he's on. There are 2 Temptation Island people who were like the bombshells, that came in to try to tempt the couples. There's one girl, Natalie, and the guy, I forget his name, Xanadu, something like that. Let's see. Then there's a girl from Squid Games, The Challenge, which is like random. And there's a girl from Making the Band, I think it's called. So I don't know that. And then there's a couple of them from Too Hot to Handle, which I don't ever watch that. I'm missing something. There's some YouTuber guy, Jimmy Santos. I don't know. And then, oh man, I know I'm missing somebody. Oh, there's someone from another person from Love is Blind. Sorry, there's Marissa from this past season of Love is Blind. Anyway, so there's quite a few people that I know, but there's so many that are just like fascinating to watch. And there's kind of like a plethora, like Mackenzie, who's the one who's from Squid Challenge, or Squid Game, The Challenge, she does not seem like this is her vibe. Like, she definitely seems like she belongs on a gaming show. Like, she's really pretty, but she's so low key. Like, I feel like you can't be low key and be on Perfect Match. Like, those two don't equate. But I love watching her. But maybe it's because she's like the one kind of oddball out. So even though she's not trying to be fascinating, she is, because she's just so much different than all the other girls on it. And she's also like a low key pretty. She's not like makeup. Well, they all have their asses out, because I don't think swimming suits exist for women under 30 now that aren't thongs. And is that what they still call them? I don't even, like, I'm probably not even using normal current terminology, but like, your ass is showing. Like, it has to show. Like, Allie just went on Maddie, my future stepdaughter's bachelorette party in Costa Rica, and like, you just wear that. That's just what you wear. I'm sorry, I'm not, well, granted, I'm not 20 something either, but like, it's wild to me. I don't know. That's another generational thing. I can't. But anyway, but this Mackenzie girl is just like, I feel like if she wouldn't be embarrassed for wearing a full coverage bathing suit, she would be wearing one probably. I don't know. She's just very chill. So I like that about her. And but anyway, it's just really good so far. I definitely recommend this season if you've never watched Perfect Match, or if you watched a season or like, ugh, I don't really like this. This is so far a really good season. I believe there's 2 more episodes that drop this Wednesday, and then I think another 2 that Wednesday after, and then I think that's it. I don't know if they have a reunion for this or not. But anyway, it so of course then they bring in, new people to and they have to match with someone every other night or whatever it is. And so there's definitely been a switch ups with people matching. There was a guy from Love is Blind Australia. He also is. Oh, and there's a one from Love is Blind UK, which I did watch that too. They're both on. They both have added a bunch. They were newbies that came in. But so yeah, I really like it so far. I really think it's good and it's very entertaining, and I think they all are fun to watch. So yeah, recommend that one. But yeah, so we got Summer House then. So like, and then Southern Hospitality, I didn't cover that one. Like, I don't know. It like that's probably my least favorite right now, even though it's really, really good. So I'm just gonna skip covering that for now because it's supposed to be short. But the last one is Summer House, and I guess this, just to talk about it a little bit, last week's is when Kyle, they ended the week before with an argument that basically Kyle ended up having with like the rest of the house, but Lindsay had brought it up, and it was all about his DJing, and all this crazy stuff happened that everyone, like in retrospect now that Wes and Amanda, I guess, are still together. Now I heard, so just to sidetrack a little bit, I heard something just in the past few days that there was some wedding somewhere that someone had a phone and they got video of West making out with this other girl that was not Amanda, and Amanda wasn't even at the wedding, but he was making out with some other girl apparently. Now, I haven't heard a ton about that, but I did hear that. I would have thought if there was a lot of news out about that, that would have been all over social media. And I just heard a couple things about that. So I don't know if that's true or not. But so going back to the episode, so Kyle gets really triggered and mad, and then he and Carl get into it, and they are almost getting into a physical fight outside. Now, mind you, they're really good friends and have been for a really long time. And so they end up like separating, and then actually eventually later in the night they end up making up, and they talk it out, and they both apologize, and it's like it works itself out. But during that fight, we have not only West pulling up his chair next to Amanda, and like, because Amanda and Kyle were sitting across from each other, and Wes pulls his chair up behind Amanda, which clearly looks to everybody like he is in defense of Amanda. Like, why wouldn't you pull your chair up over next to Kyle and be like, dude, like, let's just calm down, like, just whatever. But no. And then after the fight went on between Carl and everybody's kind of like getting involved or not getting involved or trying to diffuse it or doing whatever, they show Wes come in, and he and Amanda hug for like a full minute, like a really, really big embrace. And he's like, grabs her like by the cheek, and he's caressing her hair, and she's crying, like, which is really the only time she like broke down and cried. And she tells him she loves him. Like, I get, she wasn't like saying I love you, she was just like saying I love you, thank you for supporting me. And she says something like, you pulling up that chair next to me. And just like, again, knowing everything, was wild to see that. Like, just, it was almost hard to watch. But one thing I wanted to say is that, like, I get no one is feeling sorry for Kyle. But I feel a little sorry for him because, I mean, I know he was a dick to Amanda. I get it. But like, I I heard this somewhere too, and I mean, it made me think, but I also wonder how, what maybe has Amanda done or not done that maybe Kyle is kind of protecting her. Like maybe because there's always two sides to a story, and maybe she's, because he talked about to Carl like that they've not had sex in 7 years, which I think that was an exaggeration, but nevertheless the point was that they rarely have sex, so maybe she's like never makes him feel like he is important to her and doesn't ever want to get intimate and is never like lovey-dovey towards her. I mean, towards him. And, so, and not that that gives him an excuse to be an asshole to her and say, fuck you, like, absolutely not. But I feel like there's his side of this too. And I wonder if we're going to hear any of that on the reunion. But, he said something to Lindsay that, or maybe he said to Carl, and he said he was just like triggered because earlier in the night, earlier that day, Sierra asked him whether he thought maybe Amanda and him should separate for a while, because Sierra and Amanda had discussed that, and Amanda was like, yeah, I feel like maybe we should. And it really confused Carl because they had just gotten off of their first, or I don't think it was their first session, but a therapy session that apparently had gone pretty well. And so he was coming off that thinking like, okay, we're going to therapy now. This was a pretty good session. And then here comes Sierra saying you guys should break up. And like Amanda agrees with me. And so that I think really hurt him, which I could see where it did. And he admitted that like when Lindsay started in on him, that's where that was coming from, so basically, and this is another thing that I think is really relatable to a lot of people. I've definitely had it done to me, where someone is pissed off about something else, but they end up taking it out on, you or someone else that didn't cause the initial hurt, or could be something related, could be something like something pissed you off at work, but then you come home and you take it out on your wife or your kids or your husband or whoever. I think that's very common actually, but I could see that. I could see where Kyle was already sitting there like hurting from that and not saying anything necessarily to Amanda, but knowing that she had said that. And then Lindsay comes at him about this DJing again. And then really everybody was, I mean, he got very aggressive. I get it. And he definitely should have handled it different. But like I think he did feel like, and it was true, that the whole house was really kind of against Kyle and in that moment. And I could see where you would have like a breaking point where you would just be like, fuck you all, but really what was hurting him was this thing with Amanda. And I mean, he and Carl were together, and I don't believe they were even, I think this was the next day, and they weren't drunk or anything yet. And he was like legit full on crying with Carl. And I don't know, call me what you want to call me, but I kind of felt bad for Carl in the whole thing. And I mean, I even feel bad for him with the West thing, like I get it. Sierra is the one that really was really wronged, especially by Amanda. Well, both Amanda and Wes. Like, it's so bad. But like, how do you think Kyle feels? Like, it still is also his ex-wife, not even ex-wife yet, but his like really good friend too. So, I don't know, but no, I could just kind of relate and empathize a little bit with Kyle and feeling that like, I'm mad at all of you and I'm just going to let it out, but it's really not about this. Yeah. So, I didn't talk about my rose and thorn. I will say that my thorn, let me talk about my rose first. My rose would be, I mean, I know I had roses. Getting to spend the weekend with with Tyler, my son. We had a little road trip to Duluth, Minnesota. So that was fun. it was for my daughter-in-law's graduation. She got her master's. So that was really fun. We it was a bit of a drive there and back, and so we had all that time in the car and then had lunch together and then walked along Lake Superior and did this whole thing before we were able to get together with everybody. So I don't know, that was fun. I enjoyed that. We don't get to do that much, just him and I. My thorn was definitely someone who, actually kind of two people who made it, but especially one made it very, very, very clear that their disdain for me is not worth even hiding, and made zero effort to even try to make it anything cordial, and like just kind of made me feel like a piece of shit. For what reason? No, because I didn't think that there was anything between us anymore. We had a water under the bridge moment, and things to me I thought had been really good, and then all of a sudden they weren't, and they were actually probably worse than they ever have been, and I have zero clue why. None whatsoever. And it was, I don't know, stuff like that bothers me way more than it should. This person really does not have any major impact in my life at all, but I let it get to me every single time, and it hurts still. And I've tried and tried and tried, and to no avail. And I just have to figure out a way to not let it bother me. Would love to have a discussion with this person and figure it out. Absolutely love it, but I don't think that will ever happen. And I just have no respect for it because I was shown zero respect, and it hurt. It really did. And so yeah, that was my thorn. Still trying to like make sense of it. I don't know why, because it doesn't make sense, and I can't do anything about it. I can't control that person's actions. I can only control me, blah, 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 blah. So I'm doing my best to do that. So that was my thorn. Yeah, so there we go. And that concludes this episode. Thank you for joining me. I will be back again this week, at some point after I get to watch Summer House finale in the city, and then Watch What Happens Live. And I will talk about really primarily that, I believe. So until then, thank you for joining me. Go do all the things for podcasts that you would if you enjoy the podcast, which I hope is mine. And until then, until next time, be calm, be strong, be kind, and be grateful. Bye.